Hi, this is Christopher Sean, Kaz from Star Wars Resistance. And I want to invite you to join me on Saturday, September 17th for Podathon 2022. I'll be hanging with my friends from Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast. And I want to see you there. Podathon is a day-long charity podcasting event that raises money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. The day is going to be filled with amazing shows, awesome guests, and lots of fun. Mark your calendars now and visit www.thepodathon.com for more information about the event and how you can donate directly to Make-A-Wish. Can't wait to see you there, and hey, may the Force be with you.
Gentlemen, we missed last week's show because we went to see a rocket launch.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, it was scrubbed. Space is hard.
Yeah, you've been saying that your whole life. It absolutely is. But that gave us just a little more time to process our thoughts on some of the big news that has been coming out of the nerdery.
What is... Are you Richard from Tommy Boy now? What's going on here?
Nice. It brings great joy to my heart to know that you appreciate that masterpiece.
It is one of the great movies of our generation.
It is. No, it's. I'm not trying to be Richard. It's just that you can't get more charged conversation right now than the conversation around the Rings of Power and Rian Johnson.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that, but we are going to tread carefully. This is Tatooine Sons.
It's true. All of it.
What is the name of the Porg on the Millennium Falcon?
Force is strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that Porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
We're not done yet.
These guys recorded an awesome podcast called Tatooine Sons. Everybody listen to that.
To get there, get all set up, ready to go, and then
Nothing.
they moved it off the launch pad. Did you hear that they're rescheduling? They're trying to reschedule it for the end of September now?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
And it's like
I was hearing more October and stuff. Yeah.
like that, so it's not looking...
Probably not going to happen, but it's all right. It happens.
Well, hopefully the next one you'll be working on.
Exactly, right. Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, let's hope so. So welcome to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast, the only fan podcast to name a canon Star Wars creature and to be endorsed by the writer-director of Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery.
Looks good.
But
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, that's later. And The Last Jedi.
And
the amazing Rian Johnson. We believe that pop culture is the mythology of our generation, which so does Mr. Johnson. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. There is a story it is written on our souls, and that these myths speak to that story, and that is why we talk about Star Wars and Marvel and DC and Lord of the Rings.
Yes, sir.
Finally,
or Rings
it's about
of Power.
time.
Absolutely, and all of the other epic franchises that you love so much. I am David. I am the dad.
Hi, Dad.
Well, gentlemen, I am honored to be joined every week by my two amazing sons. Shmuley, what are we talking about?
Yes, The Rings of Power is peak Lord of the Rings.
You loved it, didn't you?
It was fantastic.
All right, can't wait to talk about it. BB Nate, you're right in your wheelhouse too.
I am. Batman Unburied was surprising in a few ways. Some good, some not so good.
Ooh, controversy.
Nice.
I'm very honest with
Dad?
this. What are you talking about?
Well, Rian Johnson's finally talking about Star Wars again. And the reaction from the fans is just about how you'd expect it to be. All right, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But before that, we have got to talk about Podathon 2022.
Yes, sir.
It is coming up this Saturday. Can you believe it? It's just 4 days away.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's almost Batman Day.
And it's almost Batman Day, too. So lots of amazing stuff coming on that day. But, man, you're going to want to be a part of Podathon 2022. Yes. Obviously, Mr. Rian Johnson is a guest on Podathon. He's going to be the final guest of the entire event. Hopefully, before we even get to Ryan's show with Octu Radio, we're going to have blown way past the $10,000 we're trying to raise for Make-A-Wish. I can't even think about a better cause to raise money for with Star Wars fans, where we all come together and we celebrate this fandom that we love so much, and we work to help kids go to Disney World and to meet, Mark Hamill.
Yeah,
these are the kinds of things
so cool.
that go on. That's what this is about. So if you haven't donated, why wait till Saturday? There's no point. You already know you're going to donate. So go to thepodathon.com. Donate now, because you're going to want to be in the raffles that are going to start that morning. And every $5 you donate, you get another entry into the raffle. Ooh. And they are raffles from Lucasfilm, I can't even go to thepodathon.com, start seeing all of the amazing organizations and companies that you love so much that are donating prizes for this. You get in on that. And as part of that, the prize that you win automatically when you donate is the goodness of your, and the feeling in your heart, because you're a good person. Yes. And so donate. I'm not even kidding. Rian Johnson's going to be on there. Seth Green from Robot Chicken and Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Slater? Christian Slater. I got that in my head somehow. Yeah, Austin Powers, The Italian Job, and The Clone Wars. Christopher Sean's going to be on our show. He's the first guest of the week, of the day. He's going to be on there. We're going to be there at 9:20 a.m. Eastern this Saturday. You've got to tune in. I haven't even told the boys yet, but it is an edited version of our recording on video because there was a glitch. But we're gonna, but the whole interview is going to be on our show the next week. But you got to tune into the video interview. It's awesome. Yes. Kristen Baver from This Week in Star Wars, Gary Whitta, who was one of the story writers for Rogue One: A Star Wars Story and Star Wars Rebels and The Book of Eli, which is one of our favorite movies. The Walking Dead. I mean, how many of you guys watch The Walking Dead? I mean, come on. He's going to be on Followers of the Force. Charles Soule, he's the author of so many of the High Republic books and the Star Wars Darth Vader, Lord of the Sith, Dark Lord of the Sith comic book series. Kelly Knox, author of Be More Obi-Wan. Zoraida Cordova, who's done a bunch of Star Wars novels. Mike Chen, Star Wars Brotherhood, one of the top books out there right now. Matt Martin, senior creative executive from Lucasfilm Story Group. Shelby Young voiced Princess Leia in Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga and Star Wars Summer Vacation. And Christina Ariel, she's the host of Star Wars: The High Republic Show. Beth Revis, author of Star Wars: The Princess and the Scoundrel, and Rebel Rising, which she gave, they were giving it away this weekend for free on Amazon a couple weekends ago, I guess it was. With that, there are more guests. They haven't been announced yet. I promise you,
they're pretty cool.
They're amazing. I can't even begin to describe this. They make me. One of the guests makes me want to drink blue milk. That's all I want to say. I just want to go get some blue milk. But anyway, new guests being announced soon. And here's what's really exciting. Tomorrow night. So that's Wednesday for all of you listening today on Tuesday. Because if you don't listen on Tuesday when the show comes out, what's your problem? Yeah. But anyway, Twitter Spaces. A bunch of us that are involved are going to jump on Twitter Spaces, and we're going to talk about who we're interviewing and some of the things that they talked about tomorrow night on Twitter around 7:30 p.m. Just follow, just search the Podathon, and you're going to find it. Or you can follow us on Tatooine
7:30 p.m.
Eastern time.
There we go.
With that, it's going to be great.
Yes.
All right.
Can we stop talking about what we're going to talk about and talk about what we're talking about?
There you go. Yes, let's do it.
Yeah. BB Nate.
Yeah.
What you got? Take over. Take over with what should be anytime you talk Batman and DC stuff, it's usually most complicated.
It is.
Not this week.
No.
All right, go for it.
Batman Unburied released a little while ago, but we all finally listened to it, and let's just say I have some thoughts on it.
I am nervous.
Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Yeah, I can fly.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
The people in this room, which one is A, wearing a spangly outfit, and B, not of use?
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
Batman has no limits.
Yeah, Saturday too. Podathon Day, Batman Day.
It's a great day.
You're gonna have to pick and choose maybe while you're driving to go see Batman movies.
There you go.
Can be listening.
Yeah, have a headphone in while you're watching.
I'm just
Batman
gonna be honest
movies.
with you. you're going to be able to watch the Podathon stuff later. I just want you to donate now.
Exactly.
And then you've earned your right to watch it later if you need to.
And you'll still get entered for the raffles and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You
got
to donate ahead of time to get in on these amazing raffles. All right, Nate, go for it.
So, just real quick, scale of 1 to 10 memory locks.
Memory keys.
Yeah. Same diff.
Yeah.
Sam, you?
7.
Okay. All right, IGN.
Yeah. Hey, I don't
So if you don't
normally
understand
give it a
what
7.
BB Nate just said there, it seems like every time IGN gives a review, it's like a 7.
Like Top Gun Maverick was a 7.
If you get a review from IGN that's like an 8, it's like it's a masterpiece.
Like She-Hulk has been 8s and 9s.
So
really?
They really do like it.
Hey,
interesting.
All right, you want my review?
Yes.
I'll give it a 7.
Okay.
Not that I'm IGN, but no, I thought it was fun. It was entertaining. I wanted to see the story play out. I did. Well, we'll talk about it. There were moments where I felt like it was like 3 different stories.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Okay. So first off, let's start.
What was your rating?
Yeah, we need your rating.
I'll give that at the end. I have that. I have that.
Ooh, it's a teaser. Go for it. All right.
First off, let's just talk about kind of the voice acting quality, because when you come to audio dramas, it's a little bit difficult to judge it because you can't see it. It's like a story that you have to play in your mind,
which is a very difficult form of acting.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. So the 2 main roles in this, Winston Duke took the role of Batman and Bruce Wayne in this series, and opposite of him was Sam Witwer as the Harvester.
That was not
That was
good.
bad.
That was really good.
That was really not.
Good.
Also, Jason Isaacs was offered. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
And the Grand Inquisitor.
and the Grand Inquisitor. That's what. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Not in the Star Wars Rebels.
And you
not
had
in
Gimli.
And we had Gimli. Man, this is like a who's who of nerds.
Yeah.
All right. That is the nerdery we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Yeah. So what did y'all think of the voice acting in the series overall?
I think overall it was really good. There were a couple things like I think Winston Duke's Batman voice just kind of gave me Christian Bale vibes a little bit. Which everybody, that's infamous if you're familiar with it. But other than that, I thought it was great. I thought Sam Witwer just was a totally disturbing Harvester. And I couldn't even tell that it was him. Like, he changed his voice so well that you couldn't even tell. But there were a couple moments, I feel like, where the leveling was a little off.
It was in the
voices
first
were
episodes.
Yeah, the voices were too quiet compared to everything else. So it was tough. I had to crank up my audio to be able to hear it. But other than that, no, I thought it was great. I thought the sound effects were great. I thought the acting was great. Everything, the way they played it out, you could, like you mentioned, play the story out in your head and kind of create your own visual with it. So overall, I think it was pretty good.
Yeah, Sam Witwer is a genius. He is one of the most gifted voice actors
definitely
alive today, maybe of all time.
Yeah.
All right. And Sam, since I know you listen,
obviously,
every week religiously.
He's got T-shirts.
He actually
I'm
is.
imagining him with like a number one fan foam finger sort of thing.
Sam, you're more than welcome to join us on this show whenever you want. I know you're busy, but you're welcome to join us on this.
We have the Sam Squad going on.
The Sam Squad, that's right. He did fantastic as the Harvester. He was great.
He was.
Winston Duke was a fantastic Bruce Wayne. He
Yes.
sounded great. Most people, did you explain who Winston Duke is?
He I forget the name from Black Panther.
The sort of like the rival.
Yeah, yeah.
The rival of, he becomes
He's not
good.
the bad guy. He's the rival.
And then he becomes good, and they
in Black Panther.
forces.
Yeah, exactly. He did fantastic as Bruce Wayne. I do understand what you guys are saying about his Batman voice sounding just like he's trying to mimic Christian Bale's Batman. But you've got to find a way to keep the voices distinct so that you can distinguish between the characters.
Yeah, no.
With that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And this was the first Spotify exclusive audio drama series for DC that has been released so far. They have others planned. This is a new deal that they've had with Spotify, so this isn't the last one we'll get. But I think it being the first one kind of showed, just because they're not used to it quite yet. I mean, the same thing happened with Marvel. They did a Marvel's audio drama a long time ago, and it's pretty okay. And then they had Wolverine,
which was
fantastic.
Yeah, everybody loved it.
So for first series, what did y'all think of the quality? The sound mixing, the effects, the way that they put everything together, and all that.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned it. I do think that there's room to improve in the future, but as for a first go, I mean, it's phenomenal. You look at our first episode compared to now, it's painful.
It is really, it hurts my heart to think about how
we
bad
put
our
that
sound
out.
quality was.
I mean, obviously they're nowhere near like that difference. That's not what I'm saying, but you know, there's room to improve, but I think they're starting off well. It makes me excited for what they might do in the future, like which other shows they'll put out.
I thought it was great. I enjoyed it. I mean, I didn't notice some of the differences or challenges that you guys mentioned with it. I was intrigued by it. I do realize the more I heard the episodes, it seemed like they did change the way they did some episodes. With it. It evolved, but it was fun, and I think it's worth listening to. Absolutely.
Let's move on to the second topic, writing. So audio dramas really have to rely on their setting and writing to be good.
Yeah.
And this show definitely didn't shy away from a lot of exposition and explaining things in long segments.
Right. And it's like the characters basically explaining it.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't have a narrator.
No. So there's whole episodes of that kind of stuff. So what did y'all think of the writing and the dialogue?
You know, when you said it definitely didn't shy away from lots of exposition, I couldn't think of a specific instance of any really long form exposition.
Gosh,
which
I can. The Poison Ivy episode towards the end.
Okay,
that was like
that's fair.
The whole taste thing. Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, what exposition was done, it was done in a way that it wasn't like overt and obvious. No, I think all of it was done really well. It gave you the information when you're supposed to have the information in a, not like a, what was the word you used one time? Anyway, but not in a way that's like just like
I've used a lot of words.
Yeah, it was a fancy one that I don't remember.
I use a lot of fancy words.
We know.
I'm smart.
And humble about it too. But like they don't spoon feed you the information like you're unintelligent. You know, it gets you thinking, but you're like, oh, it kind of they made you arrive to the conclusion sometimes. So I thought it was very well written.
I enjoyed it. I thought the dialogue, I don't remember any major exposition. They did it in conversations. They did it in flashbacks. Right. That wasn't necessarily the issue. I think my biggest concern about it, I think we'll probably talk about this in the storyline, is that it did feel like we had sort of like three different stories that were told in this. And the story we started with didn't feel like the story we ended with. And so, but that has nothing to do with exposition.
No.
So
I thought the writing was actually really good. I'm fine with exposition. I just feel like it can slow it down, especially when you put in an episode like that Poison Ivy one,
the
right
flashback
at the end, one where he's listening to the tapes of her and like who she was and all that stuff.
That's spoilers, I guess.
Well, okay.
Sorry about that.
But we just pretty much there's like a general disclaimer with our show is that if we're talking about it, spoilers are open unless it's like if the thing hasn't come out yet and we're speculating. Like if it's out, we're spoiling
unless Lucasfilm has told us we can't say it.
We say.
We say.
That happens so often.
It's happened 3 times. So,
but let's talk about the storyline, and I'm going to give the cliff notes of the entire plot. I'm going to see if I can.
Spoilers.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see if I can. I don't know if I touched on everything, but it's kind of the main point of the topic, talking about what had happened. So the story starts with Bruce having a normal life. His parents are alive. He has a good job, and everything is good. But he feels off,
and so did I.
Yeah,
I was so confused.
And it felt like Perchance to Dream. I said that at the beginning.
I remember you talking about that.
It's a Batman animated series episode. One of my favorites. It's a great episode. But he wakes up in a world where he's fine. His parents are alive. He has a good job.
So that's what's going on. It didn't feel right.
No. So, but he feels off. The Harvester is the main villain of this segment of the story, and it is great. And then we move into the real world where we find out that Bruce was killed.
What?
But of course he wasn't.
He was
just kidnapped by Hugo Strange. Now there's like 3 episodes.
Is Hugo Strange like a big character in the comics?
Yes, he's the kind of like the.
Is he a doctor? Is he a doctor? He's a psychiatrist, so he's a doctor.
He's a head doctor and psychiatrist.
So he's Doctor Strange.
He's at Arkham.
Yes, he is Doctor Strange.
Yes, but he is Doctor Strange.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a crossover.
But
not really.
No wonder
for
I was confused.
2 or 3 episodes, we focus on Barbara, But I skipped past those because not much happened in those episodes.
Gordon, not Manatee.
Yes.
Although Riddler was good. I do
touch on Riddler a little bit. Yes, Riddler was good. He was just kidnapped by Hugo Strange. Eventually, Bruce breaks out of the prison and he heals up from his time there with the help of Barbara Gordon, Alfred, and the Riddler.
Riddler was great.
He was.
Yeah.
Who played the Riddler? Do we know?
I don't remember. He did great, though.
You did great. I know you listened to.
Yeah. Bruce goes to confront Hugo Strange, but he's found to be dead.
Not Bruce, Hugo, right?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Eventually, we find out that the Harvester is a real villain in the real world. And he was he was broken out of Arkham.
He broke?
Somebody got him out of there.
Somebody,
there you go.
I don't know.
You can write this stuff. You just can't say.
I know, but like that looks wrong. It looks right, but it sounds wrong. He was
broken out
of Arkham. That doesn't sound right. By none other than the surprise twist villain of
dun, dun, dun.
Poison Ivy. Thank you. Lots of fighting.
Is her character true to comic book form
in this? Kind of.
Okay, I was just curious.
Lots of fighting ensues. I spelled that wrong. And eventually Poison Ivy dies, but she didn't really. She fused herself with this super powerful, I spelled that wrong too, tree, and she is still alive somehow. Oh, and the Harvester is dead too. Everything goes back to normal again, and that's pretty much where the story ends. I felt like those last couple episodes were...
It felt like it was rushing to a conclusion.
Yeah.
I would agree with you on that.
And the whole super powerful tree thing felt like they played Arkham Knight, and they're like, it's a good idea right there.
Really?
And they
was
took
in
it into it. Oh, yeah.
It's not. Is it in the comics?
I don't think so. No, but like there's the
Tree of Life idea in that though is like goes back into ancient.
Yeah, how they were in Israel and it was
it was cool.
a olive tree and stuff.
Yeah, it was
something
cool. Everything
similar.
about it was really awesome.
Yeah.
But like in Arkham Knight, a bunch of fear toxin gets laid on the city. Batman goes to Poison Ivy. She's like, "Can you make this something like this tree grow so that you can?"
But not in
toxin.
This is okay because I was confused.
And so Poison Ivy fuses herself with the tree.
All right,
and she dies.
There we go.
There we go. It's pretty much the same. And Riddler, went to Egypt or something at the end of the series, and he's put back in Arkham. So what did y'all think of this story?
I thought it was fine. Frankly, I wish they would have stuck with the Harvester story.
Agreed.
I felt like that was a little bit more interesting. It was this has a little bit too much of a negative connotation than I'd like, but kind of almost felt like a bait and switch with the Harvester. I thought he could have been a potentially like really interesting new rogue for it, but he ended up kind of being turned into more of a henchman. And I thought that was a disservice to the character. I thought it was interesting, and it would have made for a great...
Well,
it started off like a detective story and ended up as more of a comic book story, which each has their own place, but I feel like when you do a genre switch right in the middle of a series, it doesn't work as well.
Well, Cornelius Stirk is from the comics.
The Harvester?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
He's been in the comics since the 80s.
I thought this was an original character.
He's not in a lot of issues. I think he's in like 3-4 issues since the 80s, but he was in Nightfall and all that stuff, and he made an appearance in an episode of Gotham.
Okay.
As one of the villains.
So, but I think that he had the potential to remain the main villain of this story, or even in cahoots with Hugo Strange or whatever. I will admit I'm glad that the motivation for Hugo Strange doing what he was doing wasn't just I want to rob Bruce Wayne. That felt very like 1950s Batman, and I'm glad that wasn't it. It was like actually something substantial to it with Poison Ivy. But I feel like if you remove that whole storyline and you just have it that detective, almost like the Batman feel between Riddler and Batman, or in this case the Harvester and Batman, I feel like that would have felt better. But it was still good overall. I would have preferred them to continue that story.
I felt like the Harvester storyline was brilliant and intriguing, and when we were going back and forth between Bruce wondering, with us wondering if his parents were really alive, and then Bruce, being dead, and the Barbara Gordon stuff, and Riddler, and the all of that. That was really an interesting storyline. I felt like everything started to kind of fall apart at Poison Ivy.
Yes.
And from that point forward, it was just kind of like, okay, let's get this thing done. It felt like a completely different story from that point forward. And so that's...
Yeah, and like to touch on what Sam said, they could have taken inspiration from Wolverine: The Long Night. They made that a detective story.
Really?
They followed two detectives following this trail of murders that kind of led to Logan, and they kept like little things of Logan were showing up here and there. It was a detective story, not a comic book, and so it felt a little bit better. Overall, I think I'm going to be a little bit more critical of this series because I am a DC fan.
You are,
and I know what this series could be. It was a fun listen, but I'm gonna have to give it like a 5.
Wow.
I just think that it was slow at some points when it shouldn't have been, and too fast at others when it could have been a little bit.
So let me ask the question this way: you got a 4, 5, 6 hour road trip in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Is this worth playing and listening to all the way through while you're on a road trip?
Sure, but honestly, I'd recommend the Wolverine podcast first.
Whoa!
Ouch.
That's just from a comic book fan.
Okay.
I gotta just say it. So, Batman Unburied overall was worth a listen if you have the time and have nothing else you really want to listen to above this. It could have been better, but I enjoyed my time with it, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next series, whenever that comes out.
We don't know anything about it, do we?
No, we do. We know what it's about.
What is it about?
It's about Harley Quinn and her tapes of her recordings.
Oh, that sounds fascinating.
Talking with Joker.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I'd be down
excited
for that.
about that. Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yes.
Good job, BB Nate.
Good job, Nate.
All right. Ready for this?
Yes.
There are 10 times more Legends articles on Wikipedia than there are canon ones.
Yeah. I wonder why you put that one in there.
Which is this week's? Is it canon?
This is not going to go the way you think.
All right. Here again, this is how the segment works. I'm going to give a description of something I found on Wikipedia, random article button. You guys make an argument for whether you think it's canon or Legends and why. Okay? We good?
Cool.
It's been fun the last couple of weeks. We've had some disagreement and weird twists.
So Sam, agree on it.
Gotcha.
All right, here's what it's called.
So you agree with me.
All right. We would all be united if everybody agreed with me. All right. This is true. This is what it is. Troith's Provisional Civilian Government.
What the heck?
All right. Troith's Provisional Civilian Government was the government of the planet Troith, formed following the attack on Troith during the New Republic's campaign in the Cerberon system. Members of the government befriended New Republic pilot Nath Tencent. Go. I'm going to have you start.
All right. First of all, it feels like you're purposely making this vague, so we think it's Legends.
I read it exactly as it's
I know.
Troith?
But I feel like you chose this because it's vague enough for us to think that it is Legends. Also, a huge hint
New Republic.
of it being canon is New Republic.
That's my.
So I'm going
guessing
100%
New Republic.
canon.
Yep.
100%.
Well, I'm going canon.
So for all of you listening right now that are Legends fans, should I tell them about the New Republic?
Oh, I'm sure there's a New Republic.
The New Republic is the way it's described in Legends.
I'm still going.
But the thing is I don't know when New Republic takes place. It doesn't take place after what?
Yes, it's the Thrawn stuff. That's where it picks up.
I'm going. I feel like
I still think canon.
Yeah, let's go canon.
I'm still going canon.
Both of you?
Yeah.
What the heck is Troith?
And what the Cerberon system?
Hey, I mean,
it
could be something from canon or Legends.
Thanks. That's kind of the whole segment. I still think it's canon. That's my gut.
The final answer. You want to phone a friend?
No.
Oh, can we?
No. It's from Shadowfall.
I don't know what that is.
Shadowfall is a canon novel written by Alexander Freed.
Yes.
It is the sequel to Alphabet Squadron that came out in 2019 in the second volume of the Star Wars Alphabet Squadron series. It was first published in hardcover by Del Rey on June 23rd, 2020. And it has a sequel as well, Victory's Price, which was published in 2021.
Let's go, Nate.
Yeah.
Good job, guys. Interestingly, though, there's a continuity error in it. In Shadowfall, the Temperance is described as an E-576 Nebulon B escort frigate, contrasting its appearance as an MC-75 Star Cruiser in the video game Star Wars Squadrons.
Good game.
So Lucasfilm's Story Group executive and guest at Podathon 2022, Mr. Matt Martin, clarified that the novel was actually in error and that it may be corrected in future printing.
I feel like the canon hierarchy goes movies, TV, games, books.
Yeah. Where does comics lie?
Under or with books.
But they're still canon.
Yes,
right,
they're still
Turbis?
canon.
All right. All right. All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
Sam, Go for it.
The first 2 episodes of Rings of Power came out last week, and, well, I guess 2 weeks ago by the time you're listening to this.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you can imagine, I've been chomping at the bit to talk about them, so that's what we're going to do in this week's segment.
Be on your guard. There are older and fouler things than orcs in the deep places of the world.
All right, then, keep your secrets.
Your coming to us is as the footsteps of doom.
There are many magic rings in this world, Bilbo Baggins, and none of them should be used lightly.
Yeah, so we still haven't seen the 3rd episode of Rings of Power yet because
when we're recording.
Yeah, as a recording, because we've changed up the recording schedule a bit because life is crazy. So we're recording on Thursdays the week before it releases. So this is the day before episode 3 comes out of Rings of Power as of recording.
Are we staying up and watching it?
What time does it come out?
Midnight, or I don't know. I don't think
2 a.m. probably.
Yeah, worth it.
Not. You guys want to get up at 4 or 5? No, I'm kidding. We're not doing that. All right.
No, but yeah, let's go ahead and get into talking about these episodes. I wanted to just talk about a few like overarching things. We're not going to get into too much specifics, I don't think, because this isn't a recap show. But first, I just want to get
unless you're talking about audio dramas.
Yes, and then you summarize.
I couldn't talk about it anywhere else.
Hey, you handled it great.
You did great.
It was great.
Yeah.
Talking about a podcast on a podcast is difficult, all right?
First thing that I want to talk about, first aspect of this show, is the visuals and the production quality of this TV show. In my opinion, it feels cinematic in quality. It's got
with that
gorgeous shots. The sets and costumes feel like they walked right off of a movie set. I feel like there has been no drop in quality from the films that were released. What were your guys' thoughts when you first saw like some of the shots in this show?
Immediately from the first scene, I knew that this was going to be a beautiful show, and it had to be. With its insanely high budget, it had to be amazing. But we are talking about like the prologue when Fëanor, is that his name? Please tell me I got that right.
Galadriel's
brother.
I think that's Finrod.
Is that Finrod?
I think so.
Okay, well, Finrod.
Yeah, Fëanor was the guy who crafted the Silmarils.
That's right. Yeah. Finrod, when he walked up that hill leading to Valinor, that was a beautiful shot. And right then I'm like, okay,
with
this is going to be a great looking and feeling show. It was great. It was fantastic.
Not a single loss of quality between this and the original films.
It was yeah, and it shows that TV CGI doesn't have to be bad.
Conclude what you want from that. All right. No, I loved it. I thought it was
a good subtweet there, Nate.
It was absolutely gorgeous. The soundtrack
oh my gosh,
is
fantastic.
Is absolutely amazing.
Yes.
I've just like when I have to work and I can't have like Denver sports radio because it's almost football season. Broncos go Broncos.
And Avalanche.
And Avalanche. When I can't have that playing because I need to focus on something. I've got the Rings of Power soundtrack.
You can listen to it as many times.
I'm just on loop, baby.
It was kind of fun for Nathan and I watching these first episodes because we had listened to the soundtrack multiple times over before, and so we were like picking out the themes when they would show up for every little thing, and I'm sure there will be a little moment we'll bring
every
up
part
later.
of it was fantastic.
Yes. Next, let's get into the meat of it. Let's talk about some of the story points of the series that's been started and brought up. We still don't have a whole lot, nothing too substantial yet, but we've got some startings of some storylines. First in this story is Sauron and his forces are defeated, quotes, at this moment. At least that's what everybody thinks except Galadriel. But there are still these clues of his presence. That's what Galadriel and them are hunting in that first episode. In my opinion, it almost kind of feels like the beginning of The Hobbit.
Right.
How there's these rumors of things going on in the East and stuff like that, which knowing that Galadriel was already suspicious in this time about Sauron kind of makes her reactions in The Hobbit a little bit more significant.
Yeah, I don't remember The Hobbit that well, so I'm trying to remember Galadriel's roles in that.
So I'm trying to remember too. All I remember is she was quick to believe Gandalf and his suspicions with it when he when they were in, I don't forget, Rivendell, and he brought that blade of one of the Nazgul.
Okay.
Saruman was like, yeah, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Elrond was kind of in the middle, and then Galadriel, did that weird mind speak thing that she does. And she was like, I understood where Gandalf was coming from.
She hasn't done that in this show yet.
Not yet.
Okay. No, not yet. She also hasn't done the weird glowy thing yet.
We also have to it's fun because she fought some of the Nazgul in the Battle of the Five Armies movie, right?
I think
when Gandalf was kidnapped.
Yeah, I think so.
And she was a beast. And we saw that in this show too.
Right.
It's just, there hasn't been a change in those movies in this show.
All right, so let's just go there for just a second, because one of the, there's like this big, the Rings of Power is woke, and it seems to focus on sort of this idea of Galadriel being the main character, the hero of it. She's this warrior. Headstrong. She defies the male leadership. Elrond's dad, which I can't remember, father. You don't really want to call an Elven king dad.
Dad.
Hi, Dad. That's like calling
I'm trying to remember Daddy, the king's name.
God Almighty, Daddy God. It just annoys me. Anyway, right. You're the creator of heaven and earth, and we're going to call you Daddy God. All right. No, we're not doing that. So we're not going to do that with Elrond's father on this either. With that, but there's this idea that she's like being presented as a character that's not accurate with the stories, which is being labeled as woke. All right. What's your thoughts on that?
I think I don't put any credence towards that. I think, like Nathan said, Galadriel is a strong character in other movies.
Tolkien wrote her.
Right. Like, obviously in
Roken told her.
I'm
so passionate about that.
So Roken told her.
Obviously in like the Lord of the Rings like movies and stuff, she uses more magic and stuff to
she's
fight.
2,000 years older.
Right. No, I'm not saying
for like 6 seconds.
You're right, but I'm not saying she's like weak or not a warrior. She just goes about it a little differently.
No, she is feared in the Fellowship of the Ring.
Yes. Right.
When they get into the Elven Forest where she's at, Boromir is terrified that they're going to confront her.
Yes.
With it. He is terrified.
And he had every right. That scene where she goes all weird dark on Frodo scarred me as a kid. That was freaky.
So it puzzles me to think that Galadriel could be anything different than this. Now, I will be the first to admit, all of us are going to be the first to admit, we haven't read all of the Tolkien books that are in there. We don't come into this with headcanon.
No. All I've read so far is
headcanon is of the devil. Get it out of your head.
The devil.
Because it destroys your ability to enjoy these things. Stop.
Yes. And that's and I know, rabbit hole here, but that's what I'm having to do with She-Hulk. I'm literally having to go into
because you've read some stories.
I know, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go into this episode wanting to enjoy it and hope I come out being satisfied.
Yeah, it's the same way, right?
Exactly.
Get the I was thinking She-Hulk. Get the head canon out of there when you go into these things, and get all of the noise from social media and blogs that make money off of you clicking and videos that make money off of you clicking. And so they do things and say things that are outrageous because you are addicted to their outrage. Stop tuning into it. That's all I have to say about that.
I don't really campaign or crusade much on socials. In fact, I think I make a Facebook post about once a month if I'm like lucky.
I haven't made a post in 3 years.
That's great.
And the last one was a share.
But I made a post somewhat, referencing all the craziness that's going on about the show because it's so outrageously wrong. Like none of the outrage is warranted.
It's not rational.
No, it's very frustrating because it's it's making it where certain people are not going to be able to experience a great show. And they're missing out because it's great. But anyway,
let's keep talking about the characters then.
Oh, the next,
we'll end up coming back to this.
Yeah, I mean, another story point that was big and still kind of going off of Galadriel is like, I didn't realize this. Again, I don't know if this is in the books, but who cares? It's still interesting. Galadriel rejected going into the Undying Lands, which is really, really cool.
Which then makes the end of Return of the King so powerful because she does return.
Yeah,
she goes with Frodo.
Yep,
because she knows that the evil is finally vanquished.
And knowing what the Undying Lands are, knowing what that whole situation is, when she welcomes Frodo, to go with her. This story in Rings of Power, the opening episode of Rings of Power, makes the ending to Return of the King so much more intense.
Yeah, because she knows that he put an end to that evil.
Yes. And she can now go home.
Yeah. And see, how is this not a good show? I mean, come on. But
that is in the books, by the way. She did. She did reject going to the.
So more proof that maybe they know what they're doing.
A little bit of a different reason.
We could have a little mini dad moment right now, but it kind of reminds me of Paul when he's writing to the Philippians and he says, "For me to live is Christ and to die is gain." It's like this idea of he's staying here in order to continue the work that he's called to do. He wants to go to heaven. He wants to go into eternity, but he's going to wait until the work God's called him to do is done. And that's a very similar idea here with Galadriel. So I like that character.
Very good. I like that little insight there. One story point that got me really interested. We knew Celebrimbor was going to be in this series. That's no surprise.
It's called the Rings of Power.
Right. But it was super interesting that Elrond is going to be working with him. And I loved how they brought up Feanor and the Silmarils and stuff like that. Totally wasn't expecting that when they kind of blew past. Feels like they were ignoring it. They moved through that part of the story and
because they have to.
Right.
The Tolkien estate said they can't talk about the First Age all that much.
Really?
And so they couldn't focus on it all that much.
But I do appreciate how they brought that up because it is part of this timeline and the story, and it's interesting. And I like how that's so far in the past for these characters now. It's almost like legend and mystery at this point, too. I think that's super cool. But Celebrimbor is working with Elrond to design some powerful new forge. Is this maybe to make the Rings of Power? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the whole namesake of the show.
It's what's happening.
Do you think we see any rings in this first season?
Maybe at the end of this season, because you got to kind of bring it up at some point.
4 seasons left that they'll have to fill up with stuff.
I know.
Have they committed to 5 seasons?
They have.
Wow.
Well, that's what they're planning on right now. They're starting to film second season, and they said on the panel at San Diego Comic-Con, this is what they're planning to be, a 50-hour journey, 5 seasons is what they're hoping.
I love it.
And then another thing that still has some questions unanswered is Theo, Bronwyn's son.
Son.
We think, because you never see either of their ears in the show, Dad pointed out.
She's an elf. He's an elf.
Could be elves. He found
Xander's son, too.
Some weird Lord of the Rings style lightsaber.
This is good. I mean, it's activated by blood.
Activated by blood, as it would. But it has Sauron's sigil on it, which, where did that come from? How does it apply? We'll have to see. And then Nori, she's taking care of the
Nori's
stranger.
a Harfoot.
Yes.
What do you guys think about the Harfoots? Because those are like the ancestors of the hobbits.
I thought
they're
great.
species of hobbit, I think.
Well, yeah, they're like I don't know, like an evolutionary predecessor to them, I guess.
Ancestor.
I think they fit. I mean, they're in love with the earth, which is what the hobbits are.
Don't like adventures.
They don't like adventures.
Except for some of them.
Some of them do like adventures.
Like Frodo.
the odd ones do, yeah. But I think they fit what a predecessor to the Hobbit would be.
That's cool.
So let's go ahead and talk about some of the characters.
What about it? Okay. We're going to talk about them later?
Yeah. We
already talked about Galadriel.
I mean, we kind of talked about Galadriel, yeah. I mean, I think Morfred Clark nailed the character, at least like acting-wise.
Oh, yeah.
I think it feels like Galadriel in every way.
Yeah, it feels like a 2,000-year younger version of Galadriel.
Right. I mean,
she's very arrogant in this.
Yeah. But not in a bad way.
Not in a bad way, just like committed, confident.
I think I would use a different phrase than arrogant, overconfident.
Yeah,
there we go. Yeah, that's what I was trying to, Yeah,
I think there's a difference between overconfidence and arrogance.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Now, Elrond in this series feels a bit different than how we see him in The Lord of the Rings.
Peter Jackson's.
Yeah, right. In the films, he feels kind of more. I don't want to say innocent, but hopeful. Just kind of joyful. Just yeah,
chill.
Just a happier version.
There's a difference between 21-year-old you and 47-year-old you.
Yes,
and so you know when you're a kid or you're a young adult, overconfidence. A lightheartedness, all of those things that we see in Elrond and in Galadriel are a normal part of your character. Everything is hopeful, even though it's really not with Galadriel. Galadriel is very pessimistic in this,
not very hopeful.
You know, Elrond is just sort of like, it's all going to work out. We're going to go find my dwarf buddy. You know, we're going to
be chill.
You need to build a giant forge to make magic rings. Okay, let's do that, Celebrimbor. You know, that kind of thing. The events that are going to take place in this story are what are going to shape the characters that we get.
Yeah, we need to. I think we'll see how he gets more. I don't want to say maybe jaded. But cynical? He is kind of cynical and cautious.
Oh, he is very cynical in The Lord of the Rings.
Right. So I think that something's going to happen in this series to make that the case. Maybe, I don't know, him helping forge the Rings of Power and then them being used against them might do that to him. I don't know. Now let's talk about the new character, Arondir, who is an original character for this series. I think well, all right. What do y'all think of Arondir? First off, seeing him in these first 2 episodes, you like his character?
I really do like his character. I think it's a lot of fun. There's more to him we don't know. He is a deep character that I really like, and just there's so much backstory, and he feels so important. It's strange how he wasn't a part of it before, is what it feels like. And I mean, the scene where he's talking to his general in the watchtower, which another beautiful scene. I could not tell what was CGI or not, and that was fantastic. That is a really great scene, and you could see a lot of emotion come through him just because he's leaving this station. He's been stationed at for what, 9 years? Is what they said?
It was like 70 years.
It was a long time.
Yeah, I think it was 70 years.
Yeah.
So like 9 years for us. But yeah, it was a great character. I loved it.
Here's one of the things. I'm just going to kind of come back to this stuff we were talking about with Galadriel earlier. The big thing with Galadriel and this being woke is that she's a strong female character that's like dominating the storyline, which just isn't reality. Half of this series so far has not shown her.
Yeah.
One of the other major characters in this is Arondir. He is a strong male figure. He is a warrior, those types of things. So you can't apply, well, it's all this woke woman power, you know, feminism type thing, right?
Right.
Because Arondir is in this story, and he's a strong male character.
And there was a whole other storyline going on with Elrond and Durin.
But they do show Elrond as being this carefree, sort of not seeing the thing. His father sort of rejecting Galadriel.
I think that's just the Elf King.
I think that's just the Elf King.
No, I thought it was his dad.
I don't think it's his daddy.
Okay, anyway. I thought it was. But anyway, all of that. So you can't have it both ways.
Right.
So if you're going to continue to go down this it's woke stage, then that means you don't like Arondir.
Right.
Why don't you like Arondir?
Yeah, there's one...
Because he's not a white Caucasian elf, which is what your headcanon said that every elf has to be.
Right.
And so that means you're either sexist and racist, or you've got your headcanon so screwed up right now that you're letting other voices come in here. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah.
You can't have it both ways.
Yeah. The races in Lord of the Rings are men, elves, dwarves, orcs. Those are your races. That's where they begin and end in Lord of the Rings. So, that being said, I think Arondir fits Lord of the Rings in every way. Not visuals aside, I think him just as a character is interesting. He's really cool. Stoic. I like the like you were talking about the backstory. We learned he was a grower or a farmer, and then he was enlisted into this 100 years, multiple century war, and
become a great warrior.
Yeah, but that's not his place.
That's a great character,
right? This isn't his place. He wants to go back to the way things were with Bronwyn because he likes
Theo,
her,
his son.
Exactly.
But I think he's cool. I can't wait to see him in action because we'll definitely see him get up to some Legolas-esque stuff. I think he fits.
Well, you
perfectly.
see some of that in some trailers, I think.
Right. So I can't wait to see him be that warrior that he is. And then another original character is Nori.
Nori Brandyfoot.
Isn't Brandyfoot a last name in The Hobbit?
Yes, it is a family.
Okay. See, they are the ancestors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Who was the one that golfed? I remember that story in The Hobbit.
I know who you're talking about.
I forget his name.
I think it was a Took. Okay. It was one of the Tooks. Anyway, I feel like she fits the story well. She is very much a Bilbo Frodo character, constantly
wanting to go to
itching
adventure.
for adventure, never sticking by the
and now get to the character that we all want to talk about. Let's go.
The Stranger, Meteor Man. We have so many questions.
Yeah, I don't know who he is.
Is he Sauron? All right, you have to say it right now. After the first 2 episodes, Sauron, Gandalf, or somebody else. Go, BB Nate.
I don't know.
You have to pick one.
I don't like decisions.
You have to do it. Right now, what do you think he is based on that?
The thing is they've added so many original characters. How am I supposed to...
If he's one of those three.
If he's one of those three.
So you can go with other if you need to. Sauron, Gandalf, or another character.
They've been setting up Sauron so much, I feel like I have to go with him.
Okay.
You don't play
That's
Sauron's
good.
theme
That's good.
when he shows up.
And make it look like the eye when he's laying
Exactly.
in the thing. All right, Sam.
I mean, I feel like, are they doing like a triple bluff with us?
Exactly.
Like, is he, but not really, but is he? The only thing that makes me hesitate saying he's Sauron is Sauron was already on Middle Earth. We saw that in some of the backstory and stuff, and then he fled, or he was captured and fled. So how the heck did he get back up into space to come back down? That's my question.
So who is he? Sauron, Gandalf, or somebody else?
I don't know.
So you got to pick one.
I'm going to pick
right now based on if you had to.
If I had to pick, I would pick Sauron just because I like that idea
Gandalf.
better.
All right, let's move on.
I don't think he is.
He's Gandalf.
I want him to be Gandalf.
You guys are both saying
I don't know.
I'm saying Gandalf.
I want Sauron.
One of us is right.
We did forget the most important character. We got to talk about Poppy. I love her character so
Poppy
much.
Proudfoot.
Yes, she's such a fun character.
Proudfoots were in
Which
the...
one's Poppy Proudfoot?
That was
Nori's friend.
Oh, really?
She's such a fun character.
You like her?
I
Okay.
do. She was.
I do too.
She was the comedic relief in these episodes,
true.
which you
desperately need.
I've seen that actress.
Here's
somewhere.
the best part. We get another episode.
Let's go.
in less than 12 hours. Wait, no, we got to wait till tomorrow
it was
night.
like 3 days ago. So for you guys, I hope you
hate
watched
this.
it.
We're gonna have to wait.
Maybe if you know that I'm right that it's Gandalf by now. Okay.
Oh my gosh, I remember.
It's Sauron. It's Sauron. Anyway, so far, The Rings of Power is everything I can want from a new Lord of the Rings series. It looks and feels on par with Jackson's trilogy and feels true to Tolkien in every way. Yes, I said that. Don't at me. Be sure to tune in.
Don't at me. I'm the one that runs our Twitter account. Okay.
Well, don't at him on my behalf. But be sure to tune into the next episode, releasing
sometimes
later
like
in the
3
week for
days.
y'all. It's all thrown off for me, but I can't wait to see episode 3.
All right, we got to get this thing moving. All of our people. I mean, we've got a big topic still, and we're almost done with our show. So we're going long today. It's like me at church. Finally, but not really. Okay. One of the most beloved nerd franchises is getting a new release this weekend. We've never seen any of the previous films. We'll explain it on Movie Moments.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
Only one new release this weekend. But
there's some others, but I don't know. Nobody has ever heard of it.
Clerks 3. It's a big deal.
It is
very
a big
popular.
deal.
Yeah. Following a massive heart attack, Randall enlists his friends and fellow clerks Dante, Elias, Jay, and Silent Bob to make a movie immortalizing his life at the convenience store that started it all. This is gonna pull at heartstrings for people who really enjoy this.
If you're a big fan of this thing, you're going to go to the theaters and see it.
Director is Kevin Smith. The cast is Kevin Smith, Ben Affleck, Sarah Michelle Gellar, and
Also
Rosario
known
Dawson.
as the Seventh Sister.
and Rosario Dawson, Claire Temple or whatever in the last name
and
is
Ahsoka.
from Daredevil and Ahsoka. Yes, the studio is Lionsgate. It is rated R for pervasive language, crude sexual material, and drug content. No, we're not going.
We haven't seen the other
ones, and we don't really plan on it right now.
Nope.
So the trailers this week, Glass Onion. I'm going to try and get through this. Glass Onion looks fantastic. We got nothing from this trailer. Literally, it was just basically a cast announcement. But it's a puzzle. I really like that aspect to it. It felt like this entire movie was just going to be Clue, but Rian Johnson, and that's definitely not it. It feels like all of these people came here looking for a murder mystery, and they actually got one. It's weird. I don't know quite yet. It looks really good. Loud Crocodile.
I don't want to see that movie.
No, that's gonna flop so bad.
No, it's not. It's gonna do great.
I don't think
all the kiddies
not
are gonna
our
go to it. It's just not our thing. So
and it's got whoever the famous singer is doing the voice. I don't remember who it is. Anyway,
I don't either. But
some big popular singer.
For box office predictions, since
we're recording early.
Barbarian looks really bad in our opinion.
I don't know. People that have seen the trailers think it looks fantastic.
What movie?
I saw the trailer.
It's the one where the person goes to stay at an Airbnb and somebody else is already staying there. We've seen a trailer for it,
and then like the bunch of
I must have missed this trailer. I might have been in the bathroom.
It's an interesting premise.
It is an interesting premise.
People are excited about it.
Yeah,
if you're a horror genre fan,
exactly, it's horror, so that's not up our alley.
8 million.
It made $8 million.
That's what
it's going to make. Probably $8 million. It's okay.
That's
first weekend
for a first weekend. That's terrible.
But for a horror movie, theaters it's not horrible.
Movie theaters are struggling.
Regal is struggling. AMC is doing just fine because they're making a Nicole Kidman sequel. Top Gun Maverick somehow still making $4 million.
Somehow,
and we're going to be contributing to that sometime soon.
Yeah. And Sam and I, or Nathan and I, were going to go see it.
And IMAX finally. It's about time. And
absolutely,
for a second time. And
go for it.
I hate you. Brahmastra. I think I did that fine. Part 1, Shiva.
It's an Indian film, and it's going to end up getting the third place.
It's $3 million.
The box office is struggling so much right now. $3 million for a third place film at the box office.
There's no popular movies out right now. So what's the next popular movie? It has to be some type of horror movie in October.
Yeah.
Or the next one I can think of is Wakanda Forever, and that's going to blow up.
Oh yeah, that's going to be
huge. It's Black Panther, and it's going to be huge. But yikes.
That was movie moments.
Yep, go ahead.
That was movie moments.
Yes.
We got other things to talk about. It's been over 3 years since Rian Johnson has given a detailed public interview about The Last Jedi. But with the upcoming release of Glass Onion Lives Out Mystery, Rian was ready to share some personal thoughts about the film with Empire Magazine, his future in Star Wars, as well as talk about the fan backlash that he faced.
Hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
If you live long enough, you see the same eyes in different people.
Jedi. Have you guys seen any other Rian Johnson films?
What else has he done?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I don't even know
Rick, Looper. Those are the two that I think of off the top of my head.
I have not seen either of those.
I saw most of Looper, and I didn't get to finish it.
I wanted to watch Looper, but there's sexuality in it, so I didn't watch it.
I don't remember where that is.
It's a very interesting concept. I love it. It's an assassin from the future who goes back in time to kill people, before they commit a crime or something, an action that somebody doesn't want. So he's hired by an anonymous source to kill somebody. And
kind of like Minority Report.
The person he's scheduled to kill is himself.
He doesn't
know. Interesting.
And he doesn't know. Yeah. And as Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis.
And they're playing the same character.
It's such an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Interesting. I want to watch that.
All right. So Rian Johnson in this Empire Magazine article, which is fantastic, Rian Johnson began to share his thoughts on The Last Jedi from 5 years later. And so we're going to look at some of the quotes, some of the things that he said about and have conversations about this. I think one of the first things that he said in this was how he's even more proud of The Last Jedi today, 5 years later. He said, when I was up at bat, I really swung at the ball. Like he was going for it, right? With this. So my question for you guys, kind of before we get into too much more of this, after all of this backlash that's happened over the last 5 years with this movie, do you think it's difficult for Ryan to say these kinds of things about the movie publicly? Is it a risk for him to say this?
This might get a little dark side. But I think he has a reason to feel even more proud of it after The Rise of Skywalker.
That's not cool. All right.
I wasn't a huge fan. I feel like it did not capitalize on what he set up. And that's why I feel like
nobody did. But it's still...
there are people that love that movie.
It's still a fun Star Wars movie.
I'm
I love
not
it.
saying that, but I feel like it had so much more potential that it didn't live up to. So I think...
But let's set The Rise of Skywalker aside. As a film on its own, in spite of all the backlash, do you think that it's difficult for Ryan to say these types of things publicly because of sort of the reaction that he knows it's going to stir up? He's been silent about this for years. Is he taking a risk by saying these things?
No, because it's his movie and he's allowed to be proud of it despite what a vocal minority has to say. I mean, as a creator, you should be proud of what you produce despite certain public interactions. Whatever you create's not going to be for everyone. I'm certain our podcast is not for everyone, and
I know for a fact our podcast isn't for everyone.
I'm sure there's lots of people who are vocally against it. I just don't hear it or don't pay attention because who cares? There are people who enjoy it, and that's what we're here for. That's what we make these things for. There are people who enjoy it, and that's what we make it for. So there are obviously people who like The Last Jedi, i.e. us, people who are interviewing him.
Enough people to make it the number 9 highest grossing film of all time.
Right. So that's who he creates it for. So of course he should be proud of it because it has rallied fans together in a way too to kind of combat the toxicity that's in Star Wars fandom too. So yeah, he should be proud of it.
Yeah, I think it is difficult for him to say this publicly, but I feel like he has enough under his belt for people to respect his opinion on his own movie. I mean, Knives Out was received well by literally everyone. Everybody liked it.
Except for Mom.
Except for Mom.
She's kind of like, I didn't really like it.
But that's not unusual. But no, a lot of people really liked it. And they can look at it and be like, okay, he's a good director. Even people who didn't like The Last Jedi enjoy Knives Out because they can see it's a good movie. So he has enough to say that he enjoyed what he did on The Last Jedi, and he appreciated it, and we appreciate it too.
Right.
So
another quote he says is, I think it's impossible for any of us to approach Star Wars without thinking about it as a myth that we were raised with, and how that myth, that story baked itself into us and affected us. The ultimate intent was not to strip away. The intent was to get to the basic fundamental power of myth. And ultimately, I hope the film is an affirmation of the power of the myth of Star Wars in our lives. So
that sounds familiar.
It does. It's like, these stories are the myths of our generation. I don't know.
Listens to our
Somebody
show.
else says this kind of stuff. I think he does listen to our show. Hi, Ryan. How you doing? Is The Last Jedi the most mythological Star Wars film since Empire?
Yes, of course, 100%. You can't. There's no other ones that I could think of that could take that cake. I think it's even more mythological than Empire in some ways.
Ooh, well,
but if you think about it,
well, Empire really explored the Force.
Yeah,
in a way
that's
that
true.
we.
I mean, that was the first time you see anyone using the Force to move things. And
the Yoda
Force
stuff,
cave.
Yeah, but this really showed a lot of what it's like to be a Jedi and the Jedi Order and the code and everything, and how the myth of the Force and how it's used and how people perceive it and everything. It was
how it can be abused,
exactly.
how it can be mistreated.
It's great. It's fantastic.
The balance,
this is a good movie.
life, death stuff. Yeah, no, I completely agree that it's the most mythological since Empire. I can't think of any other Star Wars film except maybe some of the prequels. But even then, I
like what?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, the midichlorians.
Well, that takes away the mythology.
Right. So
it's scientific in the
it's the exact opposite. So I agree. I think the whole life and death aspect of it, how things aren't quite as cut and dry as we've been led to believe. The whole Force time stuff was really interesting. We'd never seen anything like that. So I totally believe that it's the most mythological since Empire.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Another quote: "The final images of the movie to me are not deconstructing the myth of Luke Skywalker. They're building it, and they're him embracing it. They're absolutely they're absolutely defying the notion of throw away the past and embracing what actually matters about his myth and what's going to inspire the next generation." So for me, the process of stripping away is always in the interest of getting to something essential that really matters. So that's obviously the quote by Ryan here. My question is, why do you think that the line, "let the past die," spoken by Kylo Ren, the villain of the series, is so hard for fans to wrap their heads around? They kind of feel like that's what the point of The Last Jedi was, while Ryan's saying that's absolutely the opposite of what the point of this was.
You watch the entire last portion of the movie, the last 30 minutes, it's Luke embracing the whole myth of his character. He literally goes out there, he gives himself a haircut in his projection, right? So he looks like the Luke that everybody would imagine.
The Luke of the past.
Right. He has his classic blue saber, which he hasn't used
Anakin's
since.
saber.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, he is absolutely playing up the myth. And then he gets just absolutely bombarded by the First Order, and he sits there and just brushes it off. He is totally playing it up, like taking advantage of all the myths that surround
the
him.
legend of Luke Skywalker.
And it gets to the First Order. You can see it. Right. It gets to Kylo Ren, which is exactly the point. Right. That's the whole point. And it inspires further myths of his characters. That's the entire Broom Boy segment, is them talking about Luke Skywalker. Huh?
Tamuri Black.
Yes.
Is that his name?
I didn't know that, but now I do.
He's Broom Boy.
He's Broom Boy. But like, it inspired more myths and legends because he embraced the myths and legends of the past. It's literally the exact opposite of what people think it is. And it's frustrating.
Yeah, it is frustrating, and you could tell this movie was purely a passion project for him. He put everything he loved about Star Wars into this movie. Yes, he was hired by by Lucasfilm to make it, and yes, he made a lot of money, but he was really doing this because he loves the mythology of Star Wars, and he really wanted to show how much he respected the character of Luke Skywalker, how much he respected Leia, and every one of these characters he really, really does appreciate. And he didn't want people to think that he was wanting that past to die, because that's what matters to him the most. That's what got him into Star Wars. That's what allowed him to direct this movie.
His love for Luke Skywalker is what this movie is about.
Exactly. It is a love letter to Luke Skywalker. And so it's why I love No Time to Die. Because that entire no, don't be confused by that. You know where I stand, and you know how it ties in. Because he dies at the end, it is showing how Bond really was, and that is 100% a love letter to Bond. That's cool. And same with Luke Skywalker. So now if you're saying you don't like No Time to Die, you don't like The Last Jedi. There you go.
No, that's not true. I can make a distinction.
No, you can't. No,
I can do that.
Yeah, I mean, kind of going off of that, I think, sure, maybe Ryan probably went about it a little, for certain people, and this is why some of the reactions exist, I think. He went about it a little too harsh is not maybe the right word, but a little too coarse in the beginning. Heavy-handed, with Luke throwing the saber and being so...
Only part of that movie I would change.
Right. Being so crass about the Jedi and stuff. I think that was like so 180 that maybe it was a little tough for certain fans.
But that needed to happen.
Right.
Because then it showed when he, was trying to save the Jedi Order that he actually wasn't over it. And then Yoda just destroying it, and then having that amazing line and conversation with him. That was needed. If we didn't have who he was at the beginning, we wouldn't have that stuff with Yoda, because this is such a good scene.
But I think that's where part of the reaction comes from.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the future and Ryan. So Ryan's on record again in this, saying that he still wants to make his Star Wars trilogy. His quote specifically is one of the greatest quotes in the last 5 years in all of entertainment. I've stayed close to Kathleen Kennedy, and we get together often and talk about it. It's just at this point a matter of schedule and when it can happen. And then he went on to say, it would break my heart if I were finished, if I couldn't get back in that sandbox at some point. So BB Nate, we'll start with you. You already got your hand in the air. Do you think this is Rian just expressing his desire, or could this be him warming things up in partnership with Lucasfilm, talking about Star Wars again, getting ready for an announcement?
Can I say both?
Sure, go for it.
I think it's both. I think it's him expressing how much he really loves this series and how much he wants to get back into it, and him knowing that soon enough he's going to be talking about it, because Kathleen Kennedy a few months ago talked that they're still in conversation with Rian and everything, and now he's talking about it, and now we strangely have D23 coming up pretty soon.
Oh, I certainly hope before this my prayer, all of you listening next week when this actually releases, is that all of this conversation about the new Star Wars trilogy and whether or not it's happening soon is completely dated and unnecessary because they announced it at D23. I would cry with excitement over that.
But it's just everything's pointing to an important announcement coming soon. Lord knows, Star Wars fans, we need that right now, because right now we don't have a lot going on.
Yeah,
we don't like the next thing we have going on is what, Mandalorian is coming out next. Andor and Bad Batch. I'm talking like after that, because Andor and that, like, for the future of Star Wars and the main stuff, like
stuff that's not already scheduled.
Exactly.
They're going to announce the Mandalorian release date in February.
Exactly.
We've got Skeleton Crew. We've got some cool stuff happening, but we need some big. We need big screen stuff.
We need movie, because Disney and Lucasfilm.
If anything, if going to Rogue One and IMAX said anything, it's Star Wars belongs on the big screen.
It does.
Yeah. With that, and I do think that Glass Onion was the last thing that needed to happen before this annount.
Didn't he say he was making a trilogy, though?
I think that he's in a position now where he can go in, do the first one of these Star Wars movies, then do the final one of the Knives Out trilogy, and then come back in and do the second and the third of these. I think that's where he's at with this. I do think we get an announcement. I'm going to go ahead and say on record before the end of this year.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Bold.
All right, Sam.
Either at D23 or Comic-Con.
I personally think he's just expressing his desire in this. I don't think we're getting an announcement soon. I definitely don't think it's at D23, or I think it would be unwise for Lucasfilm Disney for their first movie news to be Rian Johnson movie news. Not that I have a problem with it. I'm just thinking for PR reasons, you do something a little less controversial at the start. Because you do something with a completely different director, there's not going to be a lot of controversy about it. Everybody's going to be fine with it.
Here's the problem, though, with that statement. Let me push back on that. Lucasfilm and Disney are looking at this from a production standpoint.
Yes.
Okay? Force Awakens was the first one in, right? The next movie that J.J. Abrams did was The Rise of Skywalker, which was picking up for a disaster with Colin Trevorrow. Now, I would have loved Duel of the Fates. I love what I've heard about that story. The reality is the production of that film was a mess.
That's true.
The production of Rogue One,
a
mess.
Solo.
The production of Solo,
a mess.
Rogue Squadron has been delayed indefinitely.
And a mess,
Taika Waititi's thing keeps coming back up and then keeps going away.
Right.
Okay, with this. What's the only Star Wars film in the Disney era to go off without any challenge whatsoever?
That's true.
They didn't have a single issue with production. They didn't have a single issue with the director or the writer, the script, the story, anything. Lucasfilm is looking, we need a Star Wars big screen win. You go to Rian and you say, you do this again.
But do you think they get a big enough? Do you? I'd love that. But do you think they'll get a big enough win from?
I do. I think it's far enough. By the time this gets out, you're looking at least 2 years before this movie releases. That will have been 7 years since The Last Jedi.
Oh.
That's plenty of time.
That's plenty of time for it to simmer down and let people go into the movie.
You're going to hate it. People are going to be excited about a Star Wars movie.
Either way, it's going to make a buttload of money, and that's enough for them to go. It would have been
7 years since The Last Jedi and 5 years since a Star Wars film. That's plenty of time.
Whether or not Rian makes this as a passion project, it only matters to Disney if it makes a ton of money, and that's what
if it's
that's
a successful
what's going to decide whether
that's true.
All right, let's talk a little bit about this Luke Skywalker stuff. He shares that disagreeing about Luke Skywalker with Mark Hamill was terrifying. I bet it was his words.
Yeah.
This is the quote. Did you guys hear this quote? Have you read this quote?
I don't think so.
I've just heard bits.
He says, if Mark Hamill is talking to me about Luke Skywalker, I'm going to listen to him. And I got to think about that and argue with him and go back and forth and genuinely plumb the depths of my soul and what I wrote and figure out if this seems right. Also, though, remembering that, obviously, he created the character on screen, but he's Mark Hamill. He's not literally Luke Skywalker.
That's true.
Luke Skywalker lives as a creation on that screen. He's a myth. And as such, he only really lives in the minds of people who listen to and in various ways believe that myth. And I know that was me. That's what Ryan says. So it was complicated. But I mean, the short answer to your question is it was expletive terrifying.
Friggin', but he didn't say friggin'.
He didn't say friggin'.
So it's like the comics, a bunch of different symbols.
Exactly.
There's a word for that. I can't remember.
My question to you guys, I'll start with you, Sam, is what role should actors play in crafting the stories for the characters they portray?
I think it's tough. I mean, I think actors do have and should have some creative freedom with their characters. I mean, they are the ones playing them. But Ryan has a point. They didn't create that character unless, they wrote the story. Like, I don't know, Taika Waititi and Korg or something like that. Then sure, go do what you want with it. But, with this, it's true. He didn't write the character. I don't think George came to Mark Hamill or whenever Mark Hamill was cast and was like, let's sit down. What are your thoughts on this character? He said, no, here's the script.
You got to do the impersonation of George.
No.
Mark,
Here's a script.
Here's a script.
Read it, memorize the lines. Thank you. But I mean, that's what he did. He didn't ask Mark for his input. I doubt Mark gave a whole lot of input in the beginning because he
did give input. He gave in. We talked about this 4 years ago.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
The input he gave into his character was, I think you should make Boba Fett my mother.
Yes.
You don't let Mark Hamill make the decision as to what this character does.
No. Yeah, so I think you got to take that with a grain of salt. Yes, he is Luke Skywalker. Yes, he played Luke Skywalker, but he doesn't have total creative freedom with him.
Yeah, you got to look at this from the point of view of multiple actors playing the same character, i.e. Batman.
Yeah, good point.
It's a great way to look at it. They're the same character. The actors do not make who Batman is. They can make who that version of him is, but fundamentally Batman is the same. People can look at Batman in the comics and in the movies to understand this is the same character. It's not the actor that chose who it was going to be. Like, I'm sure that George Clooney didn't want what Batman and Robin's version of Batman was going to be, and that isn't his version of the character. That was a mistake on a lot of parts, a lot of different parts. But he didn't make that. And I'm sure
certain body parts.
Yes. And I'm sure he didn't go up to, who is it, Joel Schumacher?
Yes.
And be like, I want a Batman credit card in this movie.
You better give my costume bat nipples right now.
I bet you he didn't do that. That was the director's decision. It's always what the director does, and it's what the actor who puts himself into those shoes is.
Here's the other thing, though, I want to say about this, because you've got a situation where, and Ryan even talks about this in another quote, and I didn't have time to put this all in here, but Ryan talks about the fact that the last time Mark Hamill played this character, Luke Skywalker was that brash, young, 20-something-year-old, overconfident kid.
Arrogant.
Right? Leia was a very different Leia with this. And that's the last time these actors played these characters. They can't pick up 30 years later in the story and be the same character that they were. And Ryan understood that about Luke Skywalker. He needed to grow. He needed to evolve. He needed to change. I have been saying this since we got out of the theater in December of 2017. I love this Luke Skywalker because I was the brash kid and I have gotten beaten down over the last 25, 30 years of my life by life, and I am not naive anymore.
Right.
I am jaded in things. I am cynical in things, and I want to continue to have hope. And that is the Luke Skywalker we get in this film. Beaten down, jaded, thinking that's cynical. The system doesn't work. Faith doesn't work. None of this doesn't work. And then he realizes, wait a second, it does. I have to be that person again.
Yeah.
And that's why this character works. And Ryan gets it, even if, and I say this with all due respect to Mark Hamill as a person and as an actor, Rian Johnson understood Luke Skywalker at this point in the story better than Mark Hamill did.
All right, mic drop.
No, all right. So I'm going to move on. He does talk a little bit about in this article about the fan backlash from this.
Boy.
His quote, he says, "It's been a process. At the beginning, it wasn't easy. It was incredibly painful. Before the movie came out, if one person said something slightly snarky to me on Twitter, I felt a deep, oh my God, there's someone out there that doesn't like me. I have to fix this." And I will tell you, as someone who was interacting with him regularly on Twitter, I saw him do this a lot, so much so that one of his tweets landed us on
number two worst thing in the internet.
Worst thing to happen on the internet of 2018, according to AV Club.
That's a badge of honor right there.
Yes. But it was really right after that article came out that he disengaged.
Yeah,
with Twitter that, because I think he realized when he saw that article, this isn't healthy. He needed to get out of there. He wasn't helping. He wasn't winning any arguments.
No.
Which is why we've disengaged from a lot of the Last Jedi conversations. Sam, you had to say something. Why do you think it's easy for fans to treat Star Wars personalities the way they do on social media?
I think it's the same for fans treating any actors or creative people for any franchise. This, Lord of the Rings, I think there's some stuff happening with The Boys right now too.
Yeah, of course.
It's like a pandemic. It's frustrating. I think it's easy because there's no repercussions. And it's like an echo chamber. They say something and then somebody else with a similar opinion comes in and echoes that right back. And it just keeps going and snowballing. Yeah. And there's no repercussions for it except positive reinforcement from other people. You say some of the things that people were saying to Kelly Marie Tran, Rian Johnson, Daisy Ridley. You say that to their
John Boyega.
Absolutely. You say that to those people's faces in real life, and you, before the internet, you would have gotten punched.
Beat up. Yeah.
You would have gotten punched, and not saying that's what you deserve, but maybe it would have had a different effect on things. I'm just saying there's no negative repercussions for anything people do on the internet for this sort of thing. It's just almost encouraged by certain people, and it's frustrating. And
it's monetized.
Yes,
that's the dirty thing about the internet right now is that echo chamber, that clickbait stuff. It creates where you actually are monetizing toxic behavior
because it does get clicks. Absolutely. I mean, you see an article and it says something provocative like that, you're more likely to click that than Star Wars fans.
Some of our biggest, if I wanted this episode to get twice as many downloads, all I have to do is title it is the Rings of Power woke.
Yes,
that's all I have to do. That's all. Even though we argue against it. I could get twice the downloads by just making it that title.
You're going to get way more clicks from something like that than The Rings of Power is great Lord of the Rings content. That's not going to get any clicks comparatively because people want the drama and the controversy. Because
and it's monetized. I think that's really the critical thing.
It is frustrating.
When you think about YouTube, when you think about blogs, they make money by how many people watch and click it.
Right.
And so it encourages this behavior. So my challenge to you, before we even get to the dad moment, stop clicking it.
Yes.
Stop watching it.
And start thinking for yourself.
If you're a believer, if you're a follower of Jesus Christ and you're listening to that stuff, watching that stuff, clicking on those things, you are violating the admonition in Philippians 4 about whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are good, whatsoever things are lovely, if there's anything virtuous, if there's anything praiseworthy, think about those things. So I'm not talking to all of you that maybe don't consider yourselves Christians. I'm talking to you that consider yourselves followers of Jesus. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop feeding your minds with this garbage because it's corrupting you and it's encouraging this stuff.
Yep.
Get it out. Sorry.
Anyway.
Do you think it's easy for fans to treat Star Wars personalities?
Can't say anything after that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, BB Nate. I'm sorry. I'm passionate about this because it's true.
It's frustrating.
It really is true.
And like, it's different for me right now. I mean, obviously, I was a huge fan of Lord of the Rings or of this movie when it came out, but I wasn't really involved. Yeah. Yes, with the social media side of things. Now with the Lord of the Rings, this Rings of Power, I'm a little bit more engaged on socials with the fandom community, and I've been seeing more of the negative side towards this, and it's frustrating for me because now it's like I'm experiencing it all over again from your perspective. I'm like, I don't understand why people would treat it this way, and it's frustrating to me because I want to take a stand against it, but it feels like whatever you do, it's like pouring a bucket of water on a forest fire. It's just not. It's not going to fix it.
You love something so much, you don't understand why other people don't love it as much as you do.
Right, and like why they have to be. But I don't mind people disliking it. Exactly. I don't mind that. That's fine. You can have your opinion. It's the racist and sexist comments that people make towards it. It's the judging it before they've literally seen anything about it. It's the certain news sites or social platforms that I appreciate treating this show as if it's woke and things like that when that's just not the case and they haven't seen it. It's very, very frustrating for me because that's just not how this should be handled. It's the same thing that happened with The Last Jedi.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's just get into a dad moment, I guess.
I am your father.
It's almost, as you can tell probably, it's almost impossible for me to wrap my head around fans of any franchise, The Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, whatever, expressing their fandom in ways that literally harms those who create the stories that they love.
Yep.
You don't have to like the story choices made in The Last Jedi. You don't have to like the changes made to Lord of the Rings canon visually and live action, I guess, in the Rings of Power. But please, have some perspective here. Rian Johnson is a person. The actors in the Rings of Power are human beings. They have real feelings. Treat them as such. And if you're incapable of doing that, you need to unplug. You need to get disconnected, not just from all the toxic things that I just talked about, but from all of it. Stop watching the movies. Stop watching the shows. It's unhealthy for you. Find something else to spend your time doing. You're taking fictional stories way too seriously.
Get into like gardening or wood carving or something. Farming.
Absolutely. Do something. All right. The Empire Magazine interview with Rian Johnson about The Last Jedi may be the first interview he's released in years, but it's sure not going to be the last. You are going to want to be part of Podathon 2022 this coming Saturday, September 17th. I've seen the interview by the time we record this. It is fantastic. I wish I could say more about it, but I promised I wouldn't. So you're just going to have to wait a few more days. All right. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Anything else?
Yeah, Florence Pugh's Yelena to lead an MCU Thunderbolts movie. We kind of all knew it was coming. I did not peg her for being the
not necessarily. She's saying that she's the leader of the Thunderbolts, but she's the main character.
Okay,
as part of the
Thunderbolts. I'm cool with that. She's a fun character.
That Kingpin is going to be the leader of the Thunderbolts.
Ooh. That would be comic accurate.
Oh,
I like it.
Nice.
I like it.
Yes, Warner Brothers. More problems. Back to searching.
We couldn't go through a whole episode without Nate having to talk about some kind of trauma in the DC.
It's searching for a new DC Films boss after talks break down with producer Dan Lin. I'm not surprised. Just figure it out. Announce it at New York Comic Con.
Just let Zack Snyder do it. No, that's not going to happen.
They're going to make fun of him in Teen Titans Go in a couple weeks, and I'm looking forward to that.
That's funny. Squid Game's Lee Jung-jae lands male lead in the Star Wars series The Acolyte. That's from Leslie Headland and Lucasfilm.
Acolyte. There you go.
Acolyte. That's it. That'll be interesting. I'm ready. That thing starts filming in just a couple months.
Nice.
We're getting close with it. That was a long episode. We didn't do one last week, so you got a twofer.
Yeah, got a little heavy there at the end too. Sorry about that.
You know what? That's the way we do it. All right. Thank you so much for listening to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast.
If you had a good time listening, it would be awesome if you could share this with your friends.
I had fun between the sermons.
Thanks a lot.
No, that was I preached a little too, so I'm not saying. But of course, the show is only a small part of the Tatooine Sons world. So be sure to like us on Facebook and join our Facebook discussion group, and follow us on Twitter to get in on all of the action. And you can keep up to date with everything we've got going on at TatooineSons.com.
That's right. And don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss our next episode. And please give us a review on Apple Podcasts and give us a rating on Spotify or whatever podcast app you prefer. We'd appreciate it. Make sure you tune in Saturday to Podathon 2022.
Yes. It's going to be awesome.
Just go to YouTube, search it. You'll find it. It's going to be there. So awesome. All right. Anything else you guys would like to say?
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you always.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.
Join, please.
Yep, yep.